What's up, people of YouTube? This is Troy here, bringing you guys another video to my channel, and today we'll be talking about the creative class system in Call of Duty World War II. Now, before I dive into all of that, I would like to ask you guys to go ahead and hit the little bell icon next to the subscribe button on my channel or below this video, and go ahead and check that box so that way you guys can get notifications every time I upload and you don't miss any of my future videos. And that would be awesome. Now, going into the video here, this is something that's kind of been on my mind, and I saw some people talking about it over on Reddit, and I just felt like this is something that is, one, worrisome, and two, exciting. Because as you guys know, it's been a long time since we've had a World War II Call of Duty game. A lot of people have just missed the World War II setting. I personally did not play a lot of World at War multiplayer, so I have no experience with the World War II multiplayer aspect on any game, actually, that I can think of. But I did play a lot of World War II style campaigns growing up, and I absolutely loved them. The video games and the movies, that's what got me into World War II, and I'm a huge, huge World War II nerd. I love the weapons, I love the era, I love the story behind everything that happened. It was a horrific event, one which, you know, that a lot of lost lives, but there's a lot of things that current Call of Duty has that I want to see how well that translates over to an older time period. I want to know how well our community takes it, one, how well the developers kind of, you know, implement the newer style of Call of Duty into this old school setting, two, and three, what things they come up with to add to the creative class system, or, you know, maybe they just leave it completely original, the way that it used to be. And I would like to go through each one of these different types of creative classes and address the ones that I don't like, the ones that I do like, the ones that I would prefer, and what they could potentially do or not do in order to make it better coming into this this new game. And now I'm completely aware of the fact that what has already been made for this game probably will not be changed, especially something as big as a creative class system. They're not going to completely rework that in the last 5 months before the game comes out, but I think that it would be pretty cool to kind of try and predict what it could be and put some things out there on the table that maybe you guys didn't exactly think about. So the first thing that I have here is it could be the old school system. And I have a perfect example of the old school creative class system on screen right here. And that is with the Call of Duty 4 multiplayer, the remastered multiplayer. And this is pretty much as simple as it gets. I'll talk about something that gets a little more simple than this and a little bit more drawn out and simplified than even the CoD 4 creative class system. But this is pretty much what we had for a long time until they started to implement other things. We basically had the CoD 4 creative class system. It's not a bad system. It's really basic and simple. And there's a part of me that wants that system, but there's a much larger part of me that says, no, you know what, maybe this isn't the best idea for Call of Duty. You know, the Pick 10 system, the Pick 13, whatever you want to call it, has done wonders, and I think that that is something that we should strive to improve upon, or just leave it how it is, because if it's not broken, don't fix it. But I would like to cover some of the things that I think were good about the CoD 4 or World at War creative class system, and that is the use of secondaries. I can't tell you how many times I have had a secondary on a class, or actually I probably could tell you how many times I've had a secondary on a class in the past 3 to 4 years in a Call of Duty title, and it is next to none. I rarely use a secondary weapon because they're just kind of pointless. Why would you have a secondary weapon that is extremely weak most of the time, for one? And why would you have that over extended mags for your primary, or scavenger, or a crap load of perks, or in some games, more score streaks, or in some games, like a ridiculous amount of attachments, or something like that? Like, why would you swap a secondary weapon that's not as good as your primary? I want that to be forced. I want that to be an implemented thing where, like, you have to have a secondary. I feel like that's a necessity because in World War II, backup weapons were a pretty big deal. You kind of needed those to survive because there was a lot of weapon issues in World War II. And now I don't want my gun jamming on the battlefield or on a map and having to switch to my secondary by any means. But I really would like them to force you to have a secondary weapon at all times, whether that's a melee weapon, whether that is a pistol, maybe even a shotgun or something like that. I really would like them to push that, but I would like them to leave it as a simple Pick 10 system, or even a Pick 13, depending on how they do it. But a Pick 10 system would be ideal in my mind. I like the Black Ops 2 and the Black Ops 3 systems. I liked Advanced Warfare's system, but I do not like score streaks being attached to classes. I prefer it when the score streaks are on their own outside of the created class system. That's just my own personal preference. But that is what I would like them to do. So I don't know how they could do it, but I really hope that when this game comes out, it's kind of like, hey, pick your secondary, have to have this on every class, just like you have to have a primary. Or maybe they can look at it like this. You can't use the point from your secondary weapon class for anything else. So maybe they implement sort of a pick 12 system, right? Where if you don't use the point that you would use to have a secondary weapon, you can't take that and add on an extra perk. So basically it's like, well, why would I just let an empty point sit there? I might as well have that secondary weapon. Or if, you know, you wanted to do some fun things like a lot of YouTubers do, or just with your friends where you can completely take off everything on your class, you can do that. So you're not forced to use a pistol, but if you don't use it, you can't take that point and put it somewhere else. Meanwhile, we still have the pick 10 system that we all know and love, with the benefit of having a pistol without any negative, you know, restraints to everything else. I would like them to keep it to where we can still have a lot of attachments on our weapons. I know that's World War II. Some people are going to be upset about that, and I don't know how well that's going to work. But I would like them to find some sort of Call of Duty jerry-rigged, weird way to add all the attachments that we know and love from the past few Call of Duty games. That's my personal opinion. I want fast mags. I want quick draw. I want suppressors. I want, you know, multiple different types of sights. I don't want to lose those things just by going back to World War II. Now, a couple other things that I would like to talk about with the created class system going into Call of Duty World War II is the concept of what if it's super simple? And I mean ridiculously simple. This probably won't happen. I'm almost sure of it. But what if it was? Just think for a second. What would you do in Call of Duty if instead of it being like, okay, I'm going to go pick my gun and fill up the rest of my 9 slots in my created class, it was literally like, pick your team. You know, if you're on the United States side or the German side, Japanese, whatever it may be, you pick your team, you go into the game, and they have pre-select classes for stuff that soldiers used in that time period for you to use. So like American soldiers, maybe they use the M1 Garand, the Thompson, the grease gun, and a couple others, the bar, stuff like that. And then you go over to the Germans and they have the MP40, the STG-44, the Gruer, stuff like that for you to use. How weird would that be? Like, it would be an interesting game mode maybe, but I wouldn't want to see that as my created class. But I just want to know what you guys think about that. You know, go ahead and comment down below and tell me what you think of that system. Would you like to see that in some sort of a game mode or just in the game overall? Maybe that's what you prefer. Just let me know down in the comment section. Now, the last thing that I would like to talk about is something that I really don't want to see them go to, because I feel like it just made the game very, very bad, and I feel like the selection was just unnecessary. Call of Duty Ghost's system for created class was just really, really poor in my personal opinion. I think that there was way too many perks. You were able to have way too many perks, and most of the perks were garbage anyway. So it was filled with a whole bunch of junk that you didn't need. It was just it wasn't very good. I did not like it. I think that overall, the Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, even AW created class system is definitely the best. I could get over the pick 13, even though I don't really like my score streaks being attached to my classes. That doesn't bother me too much. I could get used to it. But that's just personally what I want to see. I want to see sidearms be pushed again. I want to see them be a useful thing on the battlefield, and I would also like to see a real reason to have them, you know, outside of just camos and stuff. Like, I want them to be useful again, and that's something that I really hope that they bring back. That's pretty much all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, go ahead and comment down below what you think about the created class system in Call of Duty World War II, what you would like to see, and maybe there's something that I didn't think about that would be a really good idea. Just go ahead and leave that down in the comments below. Anyways, guys, deuces.